Hello, I'm Ariam. It is September 22nd, and this is my week 3 reading vlog for the Magical Readathon of September 2025, the autumn equinox of 2025. So if you don't know, this readathon is a readathon where you have a character who goes to Magical University and, excuse me, and then they have like this degree that they're getting, and you have to read different books according to that degree. So in the spring equinox, you only need to read one book for each class, and in the autumn equinox, you need to read between 1 to 3 books for each class, depending on your degree. And the classes are, of course, according to the degree they're getting. So I actually have 2 characters, but they each actually only have 2 books left. So one character is Ori, and he is becoming a Beastmaster, and my other character is Estella, and she is becoming a healer and an archmage. She has 2 degrees. Let me get a drink. So Ori has left the classes of Restoration, level 1, and the Elemental Studies, level 1. So for Restoration, level 1, the prompt is single point of view, and I'm currently reading The Art of Loving by Erich Fromm. I have 20 pages left in this, and this is a philosophy book about essentially what is love. And then for the Elemental Studies, the course focus for Restoration is Unbroken Focus Texture. Then for Elemental Studies, the course focus is Stormcall, and the prompt is Water in the Cover, and I'm planning to read Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean, How a generation of swashbuckling Jews carved out an empire in the New World in their quest for treasure, religious freedom, and revenge by Edward Kritzler. As you can see, there is water on the cover. That's that black part over there. This is a book I wanted to read for a while, but I didn't want to buy it. I mean, I generally don't want to buy books, but like in this one specifically, I actually saw for sale, and I was like, I don't know if it's going to be that good. I don't really want to buy it. But this is basically, it's a nonfiction book about the fact that after the Inquisition, when a lot of Jews, didn't have homes anymore, there were actually a bunch of Jews who became privateers for England because England was attacking Spain and they were wanting to get revenge. I think this is going to be very interesting. I'm not saying, through the review, there's like a blurb in the back here that's really annoying me. I'm going to read it to you in a second and say why it's annoying me. But I think this is going to be really interesting because on one hand, you do have this quest of revenge. On the other hand, it's very likely that the people are going to do awful things because, pirates and privateers were not good people. The review that's annoying me is from the Washington Post. It says, Kritzler should be commended for making us rethink a few historical assumptions. What's arg in Yiddish anyway? It literally says in the summary that the Jews are from Spain and Portugal mostly, where they spoke Ladino. And Ladino died out mostly because of the Inquisition. And then the Ladino that was left in Eastern Europe died out because of the Nazis. But yeah, they did not speak Yiddish in Spain and Portugal. Anyways, and then for Estella, I have Restoration level 2, for which the class focus is Continental Remedies, and the prompt is to randomize 5 countries and read a book written by an author from one of those countries. One of the countries I randomized was Iceland, and I decided to read Stranded, a mostly true story from Iceland by Eivor Thor Benediktsson and illustrated by Anna Wilson. This is a nonfiction kid book about the time that the author's grandfather got stuck on like a tiny volcanic island. Well, it's all volcanic. It's Iceland. Island on Iceland. And then her last prompt is... Wow, I don't remember what the course focus is, or even... Pretty sure it's Alchemy level 3. It's Alchemy level 2. The course focus is Blossom Properties, and the prompt is to read a book in the color of your birth flower. I did not even know birth flowers were a thing. But Estella was born in April, so her birth flower is white. So I'm planning on reading A Fatal Crossing by Tom Hindle. This is a historical closed locked room murder mystery, which I don't read a lot of mysteries, but that is definitely the kind of, I love locked room. I love historical, so I generally love historical. I'm really hoping that I'm going to love this. And the thing is, I am focusing more on Array's books because Stranded is on hold for 2 weeks. So I'm not sure when it will come in. So right now, my plan is, with God's help, finish this over Rosh Hashanah, start this over Rosh Hashanah, and finish it on Shabbos, and then start this on Shabbos, but I'm planning really not to finish this in September because, and I don't, like, I was always planning for not finishing the TBRs in September because it's a lot of books. Like, you just saw 4 books, but I read a ton of books so far this month, and I actually read a lot. But yeah, so it would have been fun to finish it all, but like, first of all, that's asking a lot of myself. And secondly, like I said, Stranded is on hold for 2 weeks anyways. It wasn't on hold when I made this TBR. Like, when I make the William TBRs, I only choose books that I don't have to put on hold. But now it's on hold, so yeah. Hello, it is Wednesday, September 24th. Don't mind my bangs, it is very humid outside, so they are basically standing up straight. Rosh Hashanah just went out a little less than an hour ago, so of course I'm filming for you. So first things first, I'm gonna go with my nose. Okay, and second things second, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, I finished The Art of Loving. As I said, I said I had 20 pages left. That's not true. I had 30 pages left. But yeah, so this is a book about the philosophy of love, as I said. I don't really have much to add about what I said about that. I agree with what I said. What I do find interesting is some of the stuff about complaints that he makes here, as he specifically talks about them being the product of capitalism or of the modern age. Sometimes he'll be like, well, it's not just capitalism. It also exists in communism in Russia. This was published in 1956. So product of the modern age. And obviously a lot of changes has happened in our world since 1956. And I still see people complaining about these problems. And I'm willing to bet that if I looked at the 1800s, people would also be complaining about these problems. Now look, maybe they are the product of capitalism, but I just read this, and a lot of the same problems happen in here, so I just think it's humanity, you know? And it's funny how people, like, complain about the same problems over and over and over again. I do think I'm going to make a video looking at all the quotes I highlighted and see, like, why I highlighted them, what they meant to me, because that is interesting, and I would really like to look deeper into this book because it is a philosophy book, and it is something you have to look deeper into. But anyways, that is The Art of Loving by Viktor, but not by Viktor, sorry. I keep thinking by Viktor Frankl, because he's like the most famous Jewish philosopher who's not specifically religious that I know. No, this is by Erich Fromm. I did read also quite a lot. I read like a few different articles that talked about different forms of justice in Judaism and what Maimonides thinks about them, which was unexpected. It makes sense, but like, it was unexpected. Some of them were easier for me to understand than others. But yeah, I also enjoyed reading them, and like the concepts they brought up were not concepts I had heard always before about, like specifically about the differences in the type of justice. I found that really, really interesting. Like, there's a lot of words for justice in Hebrew, so they were like talking about the differences, what does this word mean? What exactly type of justice is this? And I thought it was really, really interesting. Okay, and then I read Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean. How a Generation of Swashbuckling Jews Carved an Empire in the New World in Their Quest for Treasure, Religious Freedom, and Revenge by Edward Crisler. And I do want to say one thing before I review this. I do want to say, so I said something about revenge before Rosh Hashanah. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I want to clarify that I am against revenge. Like, if you feel revenge or vengeance or whatever, I guess you would feel vengeance is the word, like, that's fine. But, like, to act on it, I've always been, like, very careful in myself to make sure I'm not acting or even wishing for acting on the feeling of vengeance. And it's very important because I believe that when you act only on the feeling of vengeance or through the feeling of vengeance, even if it isn't only, you can easily go too far without realizing it. You know? Like, you have to really think, why am I acting like this? Like, yeah, okay, you can say, I need to kill this whole terrorist group, but you need to make sure it's not because of vengeance. You need to make sure that this is, there's no other way to do it, you know? To get these awful people to stop killing other people. Anyways, now to review this book. Like, am I glad I read this? Yes. Did I almost DNF it? Yes. Would I recommend it to others? No. So this is not really about pirates. Pirates barely appear in here, and the Jewish pirates even less so. Okay? We don't really see their exploits. This is really about Sephardic Jews during the years of the Age of Discovery and the Inquisition, and where they went and what they did. And I did find that interesting. And it's funny because I have a complaint about this that I will get to in a second. I will also tell you why it's not a complaint. So the main complaint I have about this is that this was not set up well. This was like all over the place. So the chapters, we have 10 chapters called the prologue and an epilogue. And an introduction. So and the chapters, wow, this lighting is really bad. But the chapters, let's try to find a better lighting. Is this better? I hope so. And the chapters technically each have a subject, but really the subjects bleed into each other. It's all over the place. And really what he should have done was arrange it chronologically. And I should have realized this because there is like a chronological timeline in the back. And obviously I read it first because that's what you do, you know? You read the chronological timeline first. I should also really start looking through indexes first as well, but whatever. That's annoying. But let's try to... So change the light a little. I hope it's better. But yeah, he really just needed to make it chronological, and that would have been so much better. That was why I was thinking of DNFing, because I was like so confused because it wasn't in chronological order, and then things would like just keep on jumping back and forth. So he would mention Samuel Palace, let's say, and then he would have ages and somebody else, and then we go, oh, it's Samuel Palace again. I was like, wait, I thought we were in a different decade, you know? And it was very confusing, and the chronological timeline was confusing too, because it was at the end, as I said, so it just included everything he talked about, right? So I would be like confused. I would go to the chronological timeline to look, and then we'd just get more confused because it would mention people that he hadn't mentioned it yet. So it was very confusing for me, that, and I really think that he should have done it in chronological order. And then the other thing that is a complaint, but it's not a complaint, is that the scope of this book is incredibly broad. And I do think, and the thing is, I do think it would have been better if he had taken a narrower scope and just focused on one person or Jews in one place. The thing is, though, I don't want him to do that because I want to know as much as I can. So, like, it would have been better, but I wouldn't have wanted him to do that. So yeah, overall, I'm glad I read this book, but I wouldn't recommend it, unfortunately. And then, also, this means I just read these 2 books. So those were Reese's last 2 classes. That means he graduated. He's officially a Beastmaster. He's a fake character. He's not real. I'm so proud of him. But anyways, then for Estella, I got 190 pages into A Fatal Crossing by Tom Hindle, and I am nervous. Did I say what this is about? This is a mystery where basically someone dies on this ship going to New York in 1924, and this detective comes and he's like, I'm a detective, I want to investigate the death. And they're like, the captain's like, no, we were accidental. But he's like, I'm going to investigate it anyways. So he sends our main character, who's an officer on the ship, with this guy to make sure he doesn't, like, get into trouble or anything like that. and though they have 4 days to investigate the death before the ship gets to New York, I'm currently on the second day. So I'm nervous about this one because I'm enjoying it so far, and I don't like that I'm enjoying it. I'll tell you why. Because I am enjoying it despite myself. Like, I am liking to read this, and I'm like, I want to know what's going to happen next, but like, it's not really that well written, okay? The characters, they're okay. I mean, they're not bad, but they're not amazing, and especially the fact that our main character is just kind of, he's boring. He's like, our main character is the one who's really one-dimensional, and it's like, so that, but it almost doesn't matter because I do want to see what's happening with other characters, you know? But I'm nervous because I've had books like this before where I'm like, I'm enjoying it despite myself. Like this, I wouldn't usually just enjoy this book, and then it turns out that I hate it. So I'm very nervous. And then I haven't read it, but as I mentioned, I had a book on hold for Estella, her last book, and it just came in. So I'm going to get it out of the library. So yeah. Hi, it's the next day. I haven't read anything more, but I did just want to mention about Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean because I forgot to say it. The part of the reason I wouldn't recommend this book is that you have to read it with like a massive dose of salt. This just has, like, besides the fact that the author is pushing a little bit of an agenda on you with regards to that he believes that there's a lost treasure, that actually only really comes into play at the very end, so it doesn't matter. And I mean, like, the last half of the last chapter in that blog, it doesn't really matter. But there are parts of this book that, like, just contradict each other on the same page. Like, did this event happen on the Day of Atonement or Passover? You said the two different things on the same page. Or were those children kidnapped and murdered or kidnapped and enslaved? Or both. But you say two different things on the same page. And, like, he gives this fact, like, this thing about this rabbi, which I wanted to check if he had anything in the notes, but this rabbi wasn't in the index for some reason, even though King Achashverosh, was mentioned once and he's in the index, and that rabbi, who is very famous, it was mentioned twice and he's not in the index, so I don't get it. But basically he said something about his son being kidnapped, and I was like, I feel like I would have heard about that. Like, this is a very famous commentator, you know? And so I looked it up after Rosh Hashanah, and I could not find anything about that. Hey, hello, it is September 27th, and I have some good news. So 2 days ago, on Thursday, I read Stranded, a mostly true story in Iceland, something like that, by Ivar Benedictson, which was illustrated by Anne Wilson, and I really liked it. So this is a picture book that kind of blends history, science, a little mythology, and it's basically about the author's grandfather, so back in the early 60s, there was a volcanic explosion underwater which caused a small volcanic island called Surtsey to develop near Iceland. And his grandfather and his grandfather's friend went to it and got stranded on it. And I said at the beginning that I was really worried about, like, the fact that there was, like, one detail that he said was not true, but I realized very quickly, A, what the detail was, and B, it wasn't important. I think if I had read this when I was younger, like at the age it's actually aimed at, I would have still been annoyed because it would have been harder for me to figure out what it was. But as an adult, it was okay. I don't like it when I get the idea. I get that it's supposed to be fun to say, oh, which is the part that's not true, like Where's Waldo thing, but it wasn't fun. It's never been fun for me. I hated it always. But besides that, I really enjoyed this. The writing was fun. Like, it was good writing, but what really stood out for me were the illustrations. So they were just done, first of all, they were beautiful. The colors, it was mainly the colors. Like, the colors were just so beautiful. And the way that she included, like, all this mythology inside the illustrations, even though it wasn't what the book was focusing on, because that mythology was present in the book, it was lovely. I thought overall the book was really good. The illustrations, the story, the words that were actually written, it was all just they were all done well individually, and they came together really well as well. So I would recommend it, even though I wouldn't have read this book without the readathon. So, and then today I finished A Fatal Crossing by Tom Hindle. So I think I just might not like mystery books. I think that Sherlock Holmes might be a fluke for me, because that's like basically the only mystery books I've ever liked. I read One Year a Wolf book that I liked. Agatha Christie, her plots are okay, but she's super racist, so I don't like her. And besides that, I don't think I like mystery books. Like, that's crazy. I want to check on my Goodreads to see if I like any mystery books. Okay, I looked at my Goodreads, and yes, I am exaggerating. There have been mystery books other than Sherlock Holmes that I've liked, even modern mysteries. I would just... This book and the last mystery book I read before that, which was The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, they both had the same thing, where I really enjoyed most of the book, and then the ending disappointed me. So I'm not going to talk about The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle here. I do have a vlog up for that already, but I will talk about A Fatal Crossing. So first of all, what I like and what disappointed me is the cover. I really like the cover, but they need to take this part of New York out, this New York skyline out. First of all, it's just like, it's disturbing. It's a detail that doesn't need to be there. Like, it's moving the eye from where it needs to be, which is on the ship. And secondly, New York appears for exactly 2 pages in this book. It's not important, you know? Okay, but thing is, the ending disappointed me because, I'll tell you why. I realized what the main character was going to do at the end, and I knew why he was going to do what he did. However, I did not think it was set up well. The first hints we get of what he's going to do and why were like obviously there as a plot contrivance and would not have actually been there if not to give us those hints. And on the other hand, most of the red herrings that we had about his actions and motives were good, but there was one red herring that appeared more towards the end that kept on repeating itself that made no sense. And like, even while I was reading it, I was like, first of all, this is so obviously a red herring. Secondly, it's literally lying to us. Like, most of the stuff, like, I could figure out that were just stuff that he left out. But that specific thing was him literally lying to us, and it just made no sense. And so I was really disappointed. Like, just those 2 things ruined the ending, you know? I mean, and the other thing is that it's a twist ending, and I don't think I really like big twist endings. I prefer the mystery to build over time and for us to get the answer, you know? Like, I think that's like why I actually liked Apples Never Fall by Liane Moriarty when I know so many people didn't, is because they were expecting this twist ending while actually I cannot say anything more because it will spoil everything, but A led to A instead of A leading to X, which is what was expected, because it plays a little with mystery tropes, but it still wasn't a twist ending. Yeah, I think I just don't like twist endings. But I did enjoy this book until the end. So, like I said, there was no, like, really major thing of into character development. There were, you know, like, it wasn't into developing characters. It was into developing the mystery, which is understandable. But that's probably why I like mystery. Like, as I said, I do like mystery books. Have mystery books I like, but it's not my favorite genre, and that makes sense because I do prefer stuff with more character development and more world building. But the characters, I said before that, is it this one? No. Okay, good. I got mixed up with a different book that I've been reading. Okay. The characters, I do feel like they were sketched strongly in a few lines, you know? Like, yeah, they didn't have any character development because that's not what it's focused on, and also it's a 4-day voyage, so you can do very good character development in a book that's like 1 day, but I digress, because that's not what this book is. Those are character development books, this is not that. And so, but they were sketched very clearly and strongly in a few lines, and I feel like that's what you really need for a mystery book. And I especially felt that about our main character. Like, in the beginning, at first, I felt like, oh my god, this dude is kind of exaggerating, going over the top with our main character. But the more I read and the more I realized like where our main character's path was going, I was like, okay, yeah. And I liked that we do have these characters who I like that the characters felt like very real people in the sense of the side characters. Like we have the suspects and we have the detective and we have our main characters helping the detective, but we also have like all these side characters of various sailors and other passengers on the ship. And like even if they were sometimes they were just given one line, sometimes they were a little more fleshed out. And I liked how much, again, they didn't have much space, but they felt like real people. And because other people on the ship were mentioned, it did, again, I felt the same thing about the world building as the characters. There wasn't much, but it was sketched out in a few lines, and it was good for the book. Like, just the fact that he mentions, like, oh, we went up the stairs, and a few gentlemen in waistcoats said, nodded their heads to us, or we saw a woman hurrying along, and, like, it isn't important to the story, but it makes the ship feel like a real place. It makes it feel populated. So yes, overall I enjoyed this book. The ending just frustrated me. And I am interested, and like, I don't know, am I interested in reading more by Tom Hindle? Because like, on one hand, I like the book. On the other hand, and I do think that those things I complained about, this is his debut book. So I do think that they could change and get better, right? On the other hand, it's the twist ending that also frustrated me. And if he likes twist endings, he's just going to read more twist endings. More twist endings. So, like, I don't know. Should I look up more by him or not? But anyways, that is all. We have finished with those last two books. Estella has officially graduated. She's officially an archmage. She's officially a healer. And she has no idea what to do with her life. But you know what? That's Estella's problem. It has nothing to do with me at all. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that's it. And so even though there are 3 more days left in September, this is the end of this reading vlog because I finished all the books for both my characters, which is crazy. Did read quite a few picture books and Katie Kazoo books, but there we are. Thank you for watching.